Today, on Your Questions Answered, I'm going to be answering a question from Sleep Less Than 3. Aside from measuring the angle with a square, etc., how would you tell if a saw has too much set on one side versus you just consistently sawing off plumb? Now, I've had a saw where the set was off, and I did notice a pattern of consistency when the saw set is off, and that's usually how you can tell. It's going to be very consistent with each sort of sawing method, as opposed to where you're sawing off plumb, where it's not likely to be identical every single time you saw. So what I'm going to do is use my Spear & Jackson dovetail saw here. I'm going to saw a couple of things without actually having proper technique, so you can see that. Then we're going to set the set out on one side purposely, just by a tiny amount. It doesn't have to be much. 0.5 millimeter is enough for it to throw the set off. That's how important the set is on a saw. So let's jump down here. We'll do a few saws with bad technique, and then I'll change the set and I'll show you or hope to replicate what I've seen in the past. So let's jump in here and get started. So you can see I've got a board here with a bunch of lines, my side and your side. Obviously you saw following your own lines. So if I was to do proper technique, I'm going to have pointed finger and keep everything in alignment. So we're going pretty straight on the line there. Now, I'm going to purposely try and do bad technique, which is a little difficult. After you've trained yourself out of bad technique, it is difficult to kind of replicate bad technique. So what I'm going to do is not point my finger, and we'll just try and saw and stay on here. So you can see I've run off a little bit on this side. I can see it more on my side, so I'll show you that in a sec. But I've run off to the left here a little bit. Let's just try and get my elbow moving everywhere. And I've run off a little bit more. You can see the line just here on that one. I'll show you a close-up of this in a second. Let's run another one here. Let's just do small saws here. So I thought I was going to stay on that line, and again, now I've gone partially off this side here. So we can see perfectly straight, and then if you look on this side you can see that they're a little more pronounced here on the back where they're running off to the right side. Now generally if you're right-handed you have more of a tendency to throw it out to the right because your body's to the left. If you're right up against your body, it's not likely to go that way. So if you're left-handed it tends to go to the left, if you're right-handed it tends to go to the right. But you can see that it can move around depending if your arm's all over the place and you're doing short strokes like I did on this one here. This one's actually pushed off to the left of the line, whereas these two pushed off to the right of the line. And so there's no 100% consistency when you're trying to get your technique right, but you're trying to keep it straight, and you can go in and out a little bit, and so it's not 100% consistent. So let's go ahead and we'll put some wrong set on it. So I'll jump back down here in a sec with you. So now if I saw this with proper technique, the idea is that that sawtooth on that side is likely to pull it off alignment. So try that again. it's still done the same thing again. Sometimes it doesn't pull that amount, and I've had it sort of come down and just curve out at the very last little bit, and that can be based on how thick the plate is. If it's a very thin plate, sometimes the plate flexes slightly to the bottom, and I've had it sort of form a little curve out at the bottom every time. But you can see on these ones here that it's very consistent, and the opposite of what happened to these ones here. So it's consistently pulling it across to the wrong side of the line, even though I'm following my dead upright line on my side. So that is one way. It's a very consistent difference in the chop. Now, if you're not used to it, you might not realize that, but generally when you throw it out, it's going to favor the side that you're sawing with, as I mentioned before. And you can see these ones are favoring and pulling it the exact opposite way, just with a little bit of extra set on the saw. The other thing that I'm noticing as you saw through, when it's too much on there, is that it's much harder to saw through because they're not consistent. It's really, there's a lot more drag on the actual saw. It's not just smoothly running through effortlessly. You've got to really fight to bring it and actually keep it where you want it. And so as it's coming down, it's doing this sort of canted movement. So what is occurring is, as we're sawing through, the teeth on this side, which have got the extra set, are dragging it like this. So as you're sawing through like that, it's pulling it, because extra set, what it does is it pulls to the side that's got too much set, because it's taking a wider cut on that side. And so as it's doing that and coming through, it's sort of pivoting almost like this, and so it looks like you're coming there, but it's actually sort of doing this motion like this, as you saw. Like, this is really exacerbated, obviously. Over time, as you get used to it, you kind of feel the saw pulling on that side. I find just then it binds on that side. So this side that had the set that was less, that runs nice and freely, but this side that's oversetting, it's pulling the saw. It's trying to drag it across to that side, just because as it's going through, that's what it wants to do. It drags to that extra set, and that's kind of how you know. You're kind of feeling it dragging that way. You're trying to keep it straight, and even though you're keeping it straight, it's still going off the line, and normally you would. So if I go back to another saw that's got the correct set, and I'm just going to saw this line. And we can see I've come in and I've split the line. I think I drew that line a little bit off, but once again, I've come straight back in doing the same sawing technique, and you can see with a square up against this that it's dead square. So there you have it, folks. I think that was the best way that I could demonstrate the differences between poor technique and saw set, or the set being out on one side. And I'm sure that some of you out there have very different experiences to what I've had. I don't have a lot of experience with dealing with out-of-set saws, because I've mainly worked with newer saws like the Spear & Jacksons and the Robert and Lee one that I've got here, because the vintage ones tend to be way too expensive for what they are, and they tend to need a lot of restoration, a lot of work, especially these backsaws, to get them into a working state. And when I first started, I kind of gravitated to the new ones because I didn't know what I was doing with vintage styles like this. And even to date, I still don't feel that confident in restoring vintage backsaws, because I still find that I get them a little bit wrong, and it's just easier to work with the newer ones. And I'm willing to, let you guys know that. So this is the experience that I've had, and if you've got other experiences that you've had with showing the differences, or what saw set out on one side feels like versus just bad technique, I'm sure a lot of you have experiences out there, do leave them in the comments below. And if we do need to do a follow-up on this, I'm willing to do another follow-up with ideas that some of you might have and experiences that you've had, so do stay tuned if we do need to do that. So if you like this video, please do like and subscribe down below, As I said, sound off in the comments, and if you'd like to see another great video such as the one you've seen here today, do check out the playlist up here of all the Your Questions Answered videos to date. Bye for now.